Politics is making you stupid. Let's talk about it. All right, my name's Bradley Valentine. Thank you for joining me today. I have some experience in the media world and financing, and I look at this world and I see that people are just overly attached to politics today. And it's not because of this new sense of urgency in our world. In fact, while there are still some atrocities in the world, I know that there are violent things that happen in our world. Politics today and the governments of today are somewhat at an actual quiet point in our history of the world. Don't get me wrong, I know there's still murder and starvation and genocide throughout the world, and those things are terrible, but especially in American politics, we're at a point where things aren't too alarming. But why does it feel like politics is at a worse place than it's ever been in our history before? Why does it feel like we're poorer than we ever have been before? Our economics are worse than it ever has been before. Let's get into it. Let's look at this, because if you go onto social media, you're going to see videos of people protesting, you'll see prices skyrocketing, and it feels like it's kind of the end of the world, but it's not really. So I want to break this down into 4 different categories. One is I'm going to show some example of things that make it feel like the world is ending. These are some media articles or social media posts, whatever it is, but just examples of why it feels like this. 2, what is actually going on and why we get these feelings when we go on our computers or on our phones that the world is ending. So what is really happening? Number 3 is let's take a look at the past. History is very important. We're going to look at past politics and see what's going on there. And 4 is finally, how do you increase your intelligence and get rid of stupid politics out of your life? All right, so number 1, what are some examples that paint the picture that politics is in a bad place and the world is coming to an end? So let's start with looking at American politics. We really had a contentious election in 2024. We had Elon Musk join the White House with Doge. We had Donald Trump make executive orders. We have No Kings protests. So a lot of this has revolved around Donald Trump. And the question is he a bad guy? Is it his fault? Is he just very divisive? Let's break these down. So the election was super contentious. So if you remember, just a little over a year ago, we were hearing words like dictator, Nazi, end of democracy, threat to our republic, blah, 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 right? A lot of this was admittedly coming from the Kamala Harris campaign. And I know part of our rules is here, we don't really take sides, but we can observe facts that happen. Kamala Harris had her own media press conference saying that someone in Donald Trump's previous inner circle said that he was a dictator. She had a whole press conference about it. Whatever, okay? The media actually backed it up a lot, right? They said they made comparisons between Donald Trump and Nazis, and it was just wild to see. The media took sides, but it wasn't just Kamala Harris's campaign that had this divisive talk. You could even see that if you even heard from people like Elon Musk that said if Kamala wins the 2024 election, it's the end of the U.S. and our republic as we know it. Elon Musk went on to Joe Rogan and he said that he explained from an immigration policy. So it's not just one side. It was very divisive. Let's look at Elon Musk, because when he joined Doge, everyone called him a fascist. And I'm not necessarily a fan. I don't love or hate. I don't care about Elon Musk. But calling him a fascist because he was hired, I mean, I guess he did it for free. So he volunteered to essentially audit the U.S. government and our $37 trillion of debt. That's not what fascists do. This is stupid to say things like this. Fascists don't hire an outside accountant to audit and reduce debt. If anything, fascists do the opposite. They want more people to join the government, to rely on the government, right? Fascists say, okay, I'm the king, I'm the dictator, I'm the person in charge. I will pay your bills. Trust in me, so that way you'll have loyalty to me. They don't fire people. That's not how it works. This isn't fascism, and calling it fascism was dumb. And honestly, That's part of the reason why things have felt so weird. We heard things like fascism. We started throwing fire bombs at Teslas and keying Teslas because people tricked us. And this is part of the whole problem. Let's go on to Donald Trump and his executive orders, because he signed a bunch of executive orders, some good, some useless, some not so good. But the thing was, he was portrayed as a fascist or a dictator because he used executive orders instead of actually using Congress to make a new law, whatever. Well, first of all, some of these were useless and they didn't really do anything. Like calling the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, whatever, right? That changes almost nothing. You just update maps. Who cares? And I get you can tie connections to fascism, whatever. It's nothing, right? It doesn't hurt anyone. It doesn't help anyone. It's nothing. Some of these will go away when we have a Democrat. They'll just sign an executive order. And this happens all the time. Sometimes Republicans sign executive orders, then the Democrat comes in, he signs an executive order that replaces that one. It goes back and forth for years and years. It's not that big of a deal. Let's look at the last point, which is there are no Kings protests. Which, again, we're not taking sides, but these were BS, right? Donald Trump is not running for a third. He's not running for a third term. If he does, I'll eat my words and I'll go back on this. He's not. He can't, right? He's not overthrowing our democracy. So going and having a protest saying no Kings for someone who is elected, the president, it just doesn't make sense. If anything, it would be the same exact thing as the No Kings protest of 2020, the January 6th raid of whatever. That's the same thing, and we know it was all BS. So overall, these things make politics in the last year or so look really bad. But there's also some of the things when it comes to economics. So 2021 to 2023 had some really bad inflation. There are a lot of reasons from that, starting with COVID, starting with economic policy, even immigration was a part of that, but I don't really want to get into that. But inflation was pretty bad then, and we had a lot of issues with jobs, we had a lot of issues with the labor market in general. But prices went up, and generally when they go up, they don't come back down. Now, 2024, 2025, prices have settled and there's been a tick up in inflation. So prices were so bad in 2021 to 2023 that anytime they go up a little bit now, it feels painful. And people are blaming whatever, the Trump administration, the economy today, because like a little price increase. Here's the thing. If you buy, like, let's say the price of a gallon of milk goes up permanently $1. So it goes up from $4 to $5. Well, that's a lot. That's a huge increase, a 25% increase. If it goes up 15 cents the next year, people are going to freak out because now it's at $5.15 instead. But the problem was when it went up $1. So again, I'm not blaming Biden or whatever, but we need to think of things and go back into our history to understand that if a little bit of problem is happening today, when did this start? And a lot of the economic issues started in 2021 to 2023. We can go into more data. In Freedom Finances, we talk about this a lot more. We don't really talk about politics, but we talk about the numbers and how it really breaks down. So check out Freedom Finances, the Freedom Finances show. It's a great place to really break down the numbers. Let's get into number 2, which is why do things feel like they're coming to an end? What is really going on? Things here aren't really unique. Inflation happens, war happens, threats to freedom happens. But guess what? In our generation, we do have something that's unique. And that's your phone. That's social media, right? X, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. That is very unique to the last 10 to 20 years or so. So we have instant access to anytime something bad happens, we get it on our phone right now, right? Think about this. The 1970s, we were in a Cold War with the Soviet Union. and I brought this up before. People were waiting out the gas station because we had shortages of gas. So you waited in line for gas for hours sometimes. The CIA and the US were in Iran. Things were very bad. Imagine if you had TikTok, Twitter, whatever then. Waiting in line. Imagine how bad things would be. We would think the world is over, right? That's how people would react. They'd be like, look at this gas. They would show a video, look at this gas station, look at the prices of gas. That's the kind of stuff that happens today, but it's not as bad as it was back then. Now, it's not just social media. It's not just us consuming this media. It's media being given the output of media to us. So let's think about this. Traditional media generally, not always, but generally leans liberal, right? CNN, CNBC, NBC, ABC, whatever, usually liberal. Obviously, there's Fox News that leans conservatives, but CNN leans liberal. MSN's, like the news at night generally leans liberal. Now, if you're someone who consumes that, then things are going to be worse when a conservative is in, right now, or Donald Trump, a Republican. It's going to seem way worse because what you're consuming is telling you things are really bad. Now, it's the other way around for new media, and this is like podcasts. We have things on X, stuff like that, right? The YouTube videos and YouTube channels, kind of like this. I'm not saying I lean conservative, but I'm saying this is a new type of media that's not traditional on your TV. This type of stuff generally leans conservative. So if you consume that, then guess what? When Biden's in president, it seems like the world's ending. So we have this world of consumption of what you're consuming really impacts the way we feel and makes it feel like the world is over. Number 3, politics has always been contentious. It's not just right now, it's the past. So let's go look through the past and let's keep this on American politics to really look at this, because we have freedom, we have free elections, we always have. We're going to look at the past. Let's start with the Civil War. Now, you think politics are bad. The U.S. went to war with itself over politics, okay? The South seceded the Union. Abraham Lincoln was voted and elected the president. He was going to bring a new type of democracy to the United States with the Republican Party, and people weren't happy about what he was bringing. Obviously, slavery was at major risk with Abraham Lincoln. There's a lot more going on with slavery. Slavery was obviously a huge thing, but the Union was changing and the South seceded, so the North, led by Abraham Lincoln, went to war, right? Just let that sink in. I know everyone just thinks about slavery and that's all it was about, but we went to war with each other. We killed each other. And I'm not just talking about like a couple protests on the street. I'm talking about military actions in the United States against each other. Just imagine if that happened today. We're not even close to that. I've heard things like Civil War, like we could see no, it's not happening. We're not close to that. Let's go back a little bit further, about 50 years or so, when John Adams was elected the second president in the United States after George Washington. This was actually a divisive election, and this is something I remember reading about years ago. Newspapers were talking about how bad it was, and I know I've talked about how media is bad today or biased, but things were crazy then. I'm going to read a quote from, I think, the Federalist newspaper or something. It says this: "The election has been the most bitter and most disgraceful that has ever disgraced the American people." Mind you, the American people have only been around, 13, 20 years or so? Another quote: This is probably the only instance in human history where two great parties have been so violently opposed." Let's read that again. "This is probably the only instance in human history where two great parties have been so violently opposed." Do those quotes sound familiar to you today? Absolutely. We talk about how divided we are. They were thinking this 250 years ago, okay? It's not new. This is not new. So go back and study And that brings us to point 4. How do you increase your intelligence? How do you stop yourself from being so dumb by being tricked into stupid politics? Okay, there's a few things to do. First, let's focus on social media. Now, social media, people spend multiple hours a day on it. First of all, it's not good for your mental health. A lot of people who spend hours and hours on social media, regardless of what you're consuming, are found to have depression. But what I want you to do is train your algorithm to get away from politics. Stop watching those videos. Stop clicking on those links. If it's about politics, ignore it. You'll be okay. You won't miss it. Focus on other hobbies in social media. Maybe you like cooking videos or gaming videos or sports, whatever. And then finally get off your phone a little bit. Cut it down a little bit. All right, number 2, learn history. Learn the stuff about John Adams' election. Go learn about what they did. They had not just the newspapers, they would have little rallies in towns talking about the elections. Go learn about that, right? There's so much out there that you can learn about political history, and not just the way people reacted, but some of the scary bad things that have happened in history, and it puts you at perspective of what's going on now versus what's going on then. Finally, number 3, look at some facts and data yourself. Now, I'm not saying go read your favorite newspaper or follow your favorite person. Go find out the information yourself. There's a lot of good websites. There's Gov websites. There's the Bureau of Labor Statistics. If you want to see what Trump said, watch him say it. Don't read a quote from someone else who doesn't like Donald Trump. Watch him say it. If you want to see what the executive order said, instead of having someone summarize it for you, go to whitehouse.gov. It's super easy to get to. Go read it yourself. Go look at the economic data yourself. Look at the numbers and try to figure it out. Do some studying. You'll be smarter just by doing this because you'll consume more information. But those who are dogmatically focused on one area are statistically lower, and you essentially cut off part of your brain from learning and being able to critically think. This makes you dumber if you don't actually go out and look at the information yourself. If you just listen to what 1 or 2 or whoever people tell you, you're getting dumber. Okay? Get smarter. Go find out for yourself. Be an independent thinker. You're going to be smarter. You're going to think better. You're going to work better at work or work better at school. Your work will be brighter. The things you write will be more intelligent. The conversations you will have will be smarter. Go do these things. I promise you'll be happier. You'll be smarter. All right. That's all I have for today. If you're still somehow watching, thank you. If you are still somehow watching, just put something in chat or the comments. I'm just curious if anyone has watched these videos this far into it. I plan on doing more and more, ramping this up to more than, it had been a couple weeks since the last one last week, and then a week from now. I want to do a couple a week, maybe even one every day once I get to this point, but thank you so much for watching. Once again, my name's Bradley Valentine. I hope you've enjoyed the time with me. Adios.